Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before.
You know, Wobbles, I'm kind of mad at you.
And as a reasonable man, I'm willing to do whatever's necessary to find a peaceful solution to these problems.
All right, well, welcome everybody, listeners around the world and beyond, to I forgot the name of our show.
That's okay. We keep this in. That's good. What is it called?
Welcome everybody to another episode. I can't remember the number of the episode. Is it about 7 or something like that? 7 or 8. It is 8 of the Punching Up Movie Podcast. Podcast that takes movies either from the canon, incredibly popular movies, or in today's case, a beloved cult classic. And either Damian or I will have a problem with it. And one of us will present the case against, and in this case, one of them will present the case for. I'm Adam, and
I'm Damian.
Hi. So the subject of today's episode is the most recent film that we've done, actually, and I would have to say comes under the category of beloved recent cult classic. And it's the sort of Japanese one-take zombie horror movie, question mark, One Cut of the Dead. Now, before we have to sort of do a disclaimer before this episode, because it's impossible to talk about this film without wrecking it and spoiling it, because there are so many twists and turns in the film. So if you haven't watched the film and you want to watch the film, please press pause, go and watch the film, and then come back later and enjoy the rest of the discussion.
Even if you don't want to watch the film, watch the film. It's only like an hour and a half. It's worth watching. If you're listening to this, watch the film. Definitely watch it before we talk about it, because the smaller amount that you know, the little you know, the better. Sorry, Adam, carry on.
No, fair enough. So I'm going to hand back to you now. So, Damian, I've done virtually no preparation for this film other than watch it, this episode rather. So Damian's got all the information and the contextualizing and whatnot. So over to you, Damian.
So first of all, Rotten Tomatoes describes this film as real zombies attack a hack director and a film crew who are shooting a low-budget zombie film in an abandoned WW2 Japanese facility. This is a Japanese indie horror comedy, and in a sense, it's a film that really doesn't deserve any kind of punching up at. It feels like it's a punching down. And the reason why I say that is because it costs $25,000 to make. That's if you think about Clerks, which was made by what's his name?
Kevin Smith.
Thank you, Kevin Smith, in 1994. That also cost $25,000, and that was 30 years ago. $25,000 is absolutely nothing. That's what is it? It was 3 million yen, and it's made over $30 million, which is like, an incredible amount. I don't think the filmmakers wanted, really had in mind that they wanted this film to even be released on the cinema, to be honest with you. It's like its aspirations were so low. It's a film that takes place in 3 acts. And so here we go. Spoiler. So the first act is a 37-minute one-take film, which is the film One Cut of the Dead. And you get to the end of the 37 minutes and then credits start to roll. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? I will say the first 37 minutes watching it, like, it's dodgy. It's like the acting's bad, the continuity's bad. You're watching this film going, what am I watching? This is just, am I really going to be able to get to the end of it? Anyway, the credits roll, and then we get onto the second act, which focuses on the cast and crew of the film that you've just seen, the pre-production of that. I think it says, like, was it 2 months earlier or something? Maybe something like that. And then we get to know the director of the film, who's in the actual film playing the director. And you get to know his family, his wife, who's also in the film, who plays the makeup lady, and his daughter, who ends up working backstage on the film. She has aspirations to be a filmmaker. And this film is being made for a new horror company. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misremembering this, because I did see it like, a month and a half ago. A new zombie horror channel. And they want to make a one-take zombie film to open up. And it's going to be live. So they hire this director, who is Takayuki Hamatsu, who he plays the director, who's a hack director, really, directs commercials, and it's not doesn't have a great deal of kudos behind him as a director. Anyway, they get him to direct this film, and we see in the middle part not the making, but the pre-production of it. And then the third act depicts the chaotic, like, live TV shoot of the film that we saw in Act 1. So now you're seeing why the film at the start was so amateurish and so all over the place and filled with so many mistakes. And so you're basically watching a film within a film within a film. It's a film about filmmaking. It's a film about the love of filmmaking. And for $25,000, I'm so glad that it's sort of shot through the roof and made so much money, because it's brilliant. Like, it's very rare that you see something like this that's so effective and so well detailed. The Japanese title of the film is Kamera wo Tomeru na, which means don't stop shooting. And it was inspired a 2019 an hour TV movie called One Cut of the Dead in Hollywood, and then also a One Cut of the Dead true crime drama that was like a 37-minute, which directed written by Shin'ichirō Ueda, who directed this film. It was also remade in France as a film called Final Cut by Michel Hazanavicius, who directed The Artist. He's married to Berenice Bejo, who was in The Artist. She's in the film with Romain Duray. And Romain Duray and Berenice Bejo, they're up there. They're high, Hollywood, French Hollywood, French movie stars. I haven't seen the film. I don't know how good it's going to be, but with the pedigree, you would have thought maybe it's worth watching. But then I'm not really a massive fan of remakes anyway, no matter who's in it. Usually they put big people in it, and it's still not as good as the original film. Zombies had a resurgence in like the 2010s with Train to Busan, and then Train to Busan was 2016, and then Alive, which was 2020, I think. Both of those are Korean films, Korean zombie films. Obviously, we've had ongoing The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead. So zombies have been in our in the environment for a while and been sort of quite popular as a genre. And then with this, what's great about it is that really it's a zombie film without any real zombies. There's no zombies. It's just a film about zombies. And I loved it, mate. I thought ultimately at its heart, it's just a family drama about a father and daughter and mother, really, making a film. The last thing I want to say about the making of it was that the film was shot, I think, in 10 days. It was the one take 37-minute opening was filmed 6 times over 2 days, and then I think the second take was perfect, apart from some technical issues that made them have to do it again. So I don't know if it was the 6th take that they used. And also, most of the actors or people involved paid money to be involved in this film, because it was a drama school workshop that the director worked on for, I think, 2 months beforehand. He did lots of acting workshops where they cast a lot of the film. And yeah, I mean, like, how does a film like that reach all over the world. I mean, it has to have something about it, I think. So yeah,
or end up on the Punching Up Movie podcast.
yeah, exactly. Or it's
well, I mean, I think that the budget thing doesn't mean we're punching down, because it made a lot of money, and it's talked about constantly with reverence on horror movie podcasts. I think the last person to praise it, I think, was like Mick Garris on his post-mortem podcast. I think that was the last person I heard talk about it, saying you have to see this movie. So when you you recommended it to me, I was sort of looking forward to it, and ironically, I think a lot of the things that you praised about it were the things that kind of took me out of the movie. I think initially, when I thought it was going to be a 1.5 hour one take movie, I did actually think this is a little bit ineptly made, and obviously that's the point. It's a fake out, and I suppose I've got a bit of an issue, and you can take me to task on this, with extended one take sequences in movies if they're too long. I mean, I like them in fight films. I like them in, I think they call them one-ers, don't they? Like in the action choreography community. So there's a lot of them in John Wick. There's a great one in Atomic Blonde, one of my favorite fight sequences. The Charlize Theron fighting away out of a hotel, but they're sort of maybe like 5-minute sequences or something in the context of a larger, sort of more conventionally edited movie. And I feel the longer the longer a sort of a single take goes on, the more you're aware of the artifice of filmmaking, and it takes you out of it. Now, in this instance, that's part of the point of the film, and so I accept that. I think when it did the switch, I think the fact that it clearly wasn't a horror movie, and I was still waiting. I was waiting for when are the zombies going to come back? When are they going to come back? Are they going to bring them back for real? Are you going to actually see them sort of the making of the film, and then all of a sudden they found that they've accidentally kind of unleashed a zombie plague with an occult ritual, and it doesn't happen. And it really is, I have to say, a very well acted, incredibly well made, very sweet and warm, like sort of comedy drama about the art of filmmaking, improvising, and pushing your artistic vision in, and not compromising, dealing with difficult actors and things like that. But I felt, and this was a fundamental problem for me, I didn't enjoy the one take element of it. And then I felt massively shortchanged by the switch to a comedy, and I wanted a horror film. And I know that's part of the kind of radical nature of the movie, but I felt like I'm going to give you another movie to compare it to that does the same thing. It's the most obvious movie that does this. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. But I think what you do is, I felt, for me, if we're going to switch genres, the stakes need to be escalated rather than de-escalated for my enjoyment. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, all that's at stake now is someone's career. And even though I wasn't really enjoying the official one cut of the dead 37-minute bit, I thought at least, the fate of the world is at stake here. And I just felt shortchanged. I felt shortchanged by the movie, and it affected my enjoyment of it. And however well acted, and there was always this cognitive dissonance as well, because I felt that there's I suppose in Japanese cinema, acting, when the stakes are high, acting can sometimes default to screeching and shouting acting. Even with the greatest, you get that a lot even in sort of a master like Kurosawa. You get his characters that scream, and then you always have the calm center of the storm, like sort of Mifune and sort of Yojimbo or Sanjuro. But even Mifune screams in say Throne of Blood, if I remember it correctly, and there's a sort of, it grates. I don't. It's just a start. It's a decision in Japanese cinema that just grates against me. And the first 45 minutes is just screaming, And
I think I did hear something about the shouting being part of like the Japanese culture as far as a way of expressing themselves. Obviously, that, but I think it's more ingrained than just a cinematic shouting thing. Yeah. I think possibly, but I hear what you're saying. If it's like you're being shouted,
it has its equal and opposite equivalent in 1960s French New Wave movies that contain like moody French teenagers, who are just like that, just so and we can talk about that whenever we do a Godard film. So I don't know. So I wasn't completely on board with the horror movie aspect of it, and then once horror movie aspect of it was completely removed, I still wanted a horror movie.
Yeah.
And can I give you a film by way of comparison that does a similar thing, but I think does it better? It's From Dusk Till Dawn. It's the first film you reach for when you think of a movie that swaps genres. Halfway through. And obviously for the first, I mean, I'm assuming that everyone's seen it or known it, but if they don't, the first half hour is a sort of two criminal brothers on the run, sort of evading through Texas into Mexico, evading the police. There's a lot of bloodshed. They kidnap a family, and then they end up in a Mexican bar, which turns out to be run by vampires. And obviously the first 45 minutes of the film, there's no indication that we're going into horror film territory. And then there's this massive switch, and then everyone in the bar turns into a vampire, and it turns into this vampire siege movie. But what they've done there is they've taken a genre that's bloody, and then they've switched it into an even more extreme genre that's even more bloody, and where the genre rules are even more kind of wild and outrageous. And the stakes are higher because now not only are they fighting for their lives, they're fighting for their souls, because no one wants to be killed and turned into a vampire. So I felt like that works beautifully because of the escalation of the stakes, and a high stakes genre becomes an even more high stakes genre, and then you have the absolute reverse. And I felt in my instance, like going into that knowing nothing about it, everything that's supposed to work in its favor for me worked against it. So although I have to say, it was sort of beautifully acted in the sections where it's supposed to be beautifully acted, and sort of retrospectively they did a very, very good job of making a quite sort of cat-candid, screechy, gimmicky horror movie. So it's an incredibly brave film. Very
I think
I admired it, but I just really didn't enjoy it.
I mean, do you think, it sounds like your enjoyment was basically marred by your expectation? Which I think is a sort of, I mean, it's the dice they roll. It's a gamble, and I think in that instance, with me, it didn't pay off. My expectations were subverted rather than exceeded. And obviously, I'm in a minority because it's a revered and loved movie, which is the whole point of Punching Up. We're supposed to be in minority, because these movies you wouldn't have to punch up with them if everybody dismissed them as bits of garbage, or failed experiments. I think the Dusk Till Dawn genre switch, is valid to a point, but you would never have gone to see Dusk Till Dawn not knowing it was a vampire movie.
Well, no, people. I've met people who didn't. I mean, I think that was a failure of marketing, because I think they pretty much give it away in the trailer. Yeah, but the initial idea was You're absolutely right, and I remember going in, knowing what the deal was.
Yeah, I
think I would have been delighted had I not known what the deal was. I think that's the difference. I mean, because but I know people who didn't. You come across people who watch that movie, either caught it on telly or they don't read reviews. We just assume, because we're film fans and have been since time immemorial, that people always go into cinemas having done their research, knowing what they're going to see, but often people don't. And like normal people, and I know people have gone into that movie and didn't know what they were watching, and then there was there's vampires everywhere, and I can't remember what their reactions were. I think most of them just went with it. There was that kind of disconnect, that jar, and then you kind of go with it. Because
I would say they would be in the minority, as opposed to this film where the majority of people would be expecting to see one thing and then see another thing. And that's the thing that I loved about it. It was it just flipped it around beautifully, and I just was on board. Like I said, the first 37 minutes, as we both said, badly, it looks bad. It looks like amateurish, it looks like badly acted, it looks like screaming, it looks like they don't know what they're doing. And then the way they bring that round, I mean, all the way through to the credits, where you're seeing the actual filmmakers filming the 37 thing. All that was just brilliant, mate. Like, you just don't get to see that kind of detail in films very often. And you know, obviously, bar the fact that the world wasn't ending, very, very beautiful, very clever, very heartwarming. And I was just surprised, because I thought it was just I thought, like everybody else, I thought it was a zombie film. You know, they're making a film and zombies for real are going to come and eat them. And then when it didn't happen like that, that for me was great, because it subverted any expectation that I had. And that was a welcome relief, in the sense that I'm seeing something that I don't expect to see. And that's refreshing. You know, you and I have seen so many films, you know, and it's always nice to be surprised. And that was
I was surprised, but it wasn't a nice surprise. I've just thought, yeah, it was. So I just thought of an example where there's a genre switch, and again, this is going to spoil something. So I'm going to talk about Fargo. Is it Fargo season 2, the one that's sort of set in the 1970s? I think it is the one with Jeffrey Donovan and Nick Offerman. That one, and in the middle of that, a UFO turns up, like for no discernible reason. But I think because it's Cohen land, even though it's like the TV series is it Noah Hawley, or no, I can't remember the name of the show. It's obviously done with the sort of blessing for you know, blessing of the Cohen brothers, and they're trying to be consistent with the world that the Coen brothers have created, not just in Fargo, but just their entire world. The fact that a UFO turns up in the middle of this, essentially a sort of 1970s sort of black comic crime drama, is delightful. And kind of not it's unexpected, but not entirely unexpected. So you know, and not a big plot points made of it. I think this UFO turns up twice, and it's not overly explained, if my memory serves. And I sort of things like that. I think because it's a kind of it's sort of consistent with the genre, and it's sort of elevating it into a greater genre stratosphere, rather than sort of, you know, just sort of plunging it back into comic social realism, which is not my favorite genre, but it's like,
and Magnolia as well. Like they drop a lot of sort of weird things in there that are like not really of this world.
The rain of frogs and the musical number towards the end, when they all start singing around, don't they? I love stuff like that. I mean, but what they're not doing is they're not completely switching genres for the film.
No, they're not. They're just dropping.
They're introducing an element of surrealism, aren't they? Or so I don't know. I think their intentions just didn't land with me. I respect the effort. I'm glad it did well. These are rubbish punching up podcasts. We're never really that mean to films. I don't think we've ever like really eviscerated or attacked a film.
That's okay. No, I don't think we should do. I mean, like, you know, like,
well, unless we really hate it.
We're punching up at films that are like, you know, revered as classics, or revered as, and we've said like we don't like them, but at the same time you've got to appreciate like this film. It takes an army to make a film, you know, like to just to be a critic or somebody who's just mean for the sake of being mean. And even if you have like a good enough reason, there's too many people out there doing that. And I'm not really interested in making like,
although you did it with Inception. There was genuine venom there. Yeah.
You say that, mate. I mean, I don't know. It's been a while since you've heard it. So like, have a little listen.
No, it has been a while. So.
Exactly. I think you've misremembered it, mate.
Possibly. And also I'm being slightly hyperbolic, but
of course.
Yeah, because you're a very nice man, and it is just. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, if we ever get on to, I suppose the problem is movies. I really, I'm gonna. Shall I just sort of say a few? I really want to do that.
Yeah, go for it.
Easy Rider, I hate.
Yeah, I love Easy
The Holy Mountain or El Topo by Jodorowsky. I absolutely hate.
Thinking about that.
Yeah. So when we do those, you know, that there will be very little concession to the films or the filmmakers.
I don't know about that, mate. When you know, Easy Rider, as much as you hate the film, like it was, you know, you can't. we'll get into it when we do it. But there's the
and I've even got one nice thing to say about Jodorowsky as well, So, but we'll save those punches. I'm not gonna.
And also, you might find that when we do rewatch those films and then do a little bit of research, you go, okay, that's kind of interesting, And he is just, it's not to your taste, right? But people, obviously,
he's not.
Not to
but
many
he's not
people
to my taste because he's rubbish or he's fundamentally flawed or he's. But yeah, so I don't know. Have we said everything?
Let's just do a little sort of couple of minutes on zombie films. What's your favorite zombie film?
I think probably Zombie Flesh Eaters.
I don't think I've seen. That's Lucio Fulci, isn't it?
Lucio Fulci. I have to say, I think it's. I have to say, and you can use this as ammunition against me. I'm not a massive zombie movie fan, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I respect the great ones more than I really enjoy them.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the first three, George Romero ones. I like. It's a different zombie movie. I Walk with a Zombie. Like the Jacques Tournier sort of classic from the 1940s, but that's more sort of voodoo zombification rather than. No, it isn't. It hasn't really got anybody particularly famous in it. But no, I think the first one I think about is Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Why do you like Zombie Flesh Eaters? Why?
I think it's. I think the first thing people remember about it is how gory it is, and no one believes me. I'm not a massive fan of gore, but I think the thing that surprised me was having seen Saw 10. But again, I'm not. The gore elements. We can talk about Saw if you want to, but the gore elements in Saw to me are almost like the least interesting ones. I like the wheels within wheels plans of Jigsaw John Kramer and just how ridiculously convoluted they get.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
And the bit where the theme music kicks in and he explains his plan and how everyone really were like little puppets in his master game. So I like that, and there's some very seminal bits of gore in. But the thing I like about Lucio Fulci is he's like Dario Argento. He's like a real dream logic merchant. His films don't really make much sense. Zombie Flesh Eaters makes more sense. It's probably the most, in terms of plot, probably the most linear of the ones of his I've seen. But he just composes his shots beautifully. He has this amazing way of shooting, like very, very sort of kind of wind-blown, apocalyptic sort of vistas. So in Beyond, you get this glimpse of hell. The Beyond is sort of. And it's this sort of endless sort of cavern of, it's this endless almost like smoke-filled cavern in City of the Living Dead. You have them walking through the underworld, and there are all these desiccated zombies that are kind of like statues and crumbling, and he does that really, really well. And there are some really kind of indelible sort of sequences of zombies just walking through the Caribbean just really slowly, and it sort of winds, and the sand's being blown in the way that the sand's blown across the street in Yojimbo, the way Kurosawa would frame it and shoot sort of the wind and the sand. And so I like the way he combines the elements with the zombies. I think he directs action sequences incredibly well. I'm a big fan of sieges, and there's a great sequence of zombies attacking a hospital, which is the great action sequence. There's the famous sequence, I think, is really good, and it's just an astonishing, like, how on earth did they do this? Where a woman goes swimming. It's quite a salacious sequence because all like Italian horror directors from the 1970s are massive perverts. So a woman doesn't have to. She doesn't just go snorkeling. She has to sort of just strip off and go snorkeling. But she's stalked by an actual tiger shark that's attacked by, and then zombies stalking her, and then attacks the shark as it's about to attack her. That was phenomenal underwater fight, which is probably one of the most astonishing action sequences I've ever seen in a zombie. It was a real shark and a real stuntman, and I think they did it. They had an amputee, and he had people can like email in and correct me if I've got this technically wrong. And the shark's like biting this guy. So it must have been so incredibly dangerous to film. I think they sedated the shark a bit, but it's an actual shark, and it's just phenomenal. Phenomenal sort of fight sequence with this real shark, this real stuntman made up the zombie, and this poor actress is in proximity of this like doped up shark. I think zombie movies are possibly at their best when they're really nihilistic, and this has one of the most nihilistic endings of any zombie movie. And also the music by, is it Fabio Frizzi, is brilliant. Just all those elements come together, and I think it's a terrific. And also it's one of those movies that just had a real impression on me as a kid, because I remember the poster, and then it got banned and you couldn't see it. We got this poster of this sort of this kind of gnarly hand with bones sticking through the desiccate, coming up through the, and then the tagline, if there's no room in, I'm mixing this up with like Dawn of the Dead, when there's no room in hell, the dead walk the earth, or something like that. I think I might be. Is that Dawn of the Dead? Well, that kind of makes sense, because it was designed to be a kind of unofficial rip-off sequel. So Zombies Dawn of the Dead, and there were lots of kind of copyright like argy bargy, and so. I think it has lots and lots of titles. I think it was originally called Zombie 2, and then they had to truncate it to Zombie, and then England it was like Zombie Flesh Eaters. So that's my favorite zombie movie. What's yours?
Well, I have a few, or ones that I enjoy. Like, I really enjoyed Girl with All the Gifts.
Yes. Yeah.
A left fielder, really. Again, there's a lot of psychology in there. There's a lot. It's not just like you. I'm not really. People getting their arms and legs and heads bitten off and eyes gouged out. It's not really like, I was probably more into that when I was a teenager, but now I really don't care about any of that stuff. I care about the story, care about the film. So Girl with All the Gifts, Rec 1 and 2, I think are brilliant films. And I think probably, I don't know if Rec 2 is maybe like the zombie film that scared me the most. And I think that there was something different about the zombies in Rec 2, that they were all, it was like they were all possessed, or they were all controlled by this one Borg-like creature, one, evil creature, that evil was the thing that was scary, as opposed to just, and Train to Busan, I think pound for pound is a phenomenal film. I think it just works brilliantly. There's just all the elements you need for a great film, like a 3-act film with all the characters, and it's got some great zombie sequences. I never saw World War Z. I thought the book was brilliant. Really enjoyed that. It would have been, I mean, it's almost impossible to film the book, isn't it? It becomes an anthology.
Yeah, and I don't think they did. I don't think they did. There's a lovely interview with Max Brooks where he talks about how snotty he was about the film, and then he met Brad Pitt at a party, and he said this is one of the reasons he loves Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt walked up to him and goes, "Hey man, sorry we ruined your film, your book," or something like that.
Brilliant. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so he was really, because I think Brad Pitt had heard what he'd said. It was really good natured about it, and it didn't sort of throw his weight around, stuff. So yeah, no, I don't know. I there's a lot of zombie movies. Maybe I do like zombie movies, maybe more than I thought. I think they're too much of an easy reach. I think it's like found footage films, and there's too many cheap bad ones, by people understandably trying to get their foot on the ladder, because they're quite. I'd imagine they don't cost. It doesn't cost a lot of money to, get some zombies. But yeah, I mean, I think of the big three Joe Romero ones. I think Day of the Dead is probably my favorite, and that does have a great bit of
probably the most entertaining.
Yeah, it is, and I think Dawn of the Dead objectively is probably the best. I think that is a phenomenal film. It's not my first reach. They're not my favorite monsters, and I do prefer walking to running. A werewolf over a zombie every time.
Yeah, so you prefer walking to running, werewolf over zombie. Oh yeah, so you like the 28 Days Later zombies because they ran.
No, I prefer walking.
Oh, you prefer the walk? What? Because you'd be able to get away quicker?
No, because I think it's more. Ominous. It's actually more ominous and more threatening, because the thing about it is it puts you in a false sense of security that you can outpace them, but their eternal purpose is to get you, and they've got nothing else to do, and you'll be overwhelmed by them, because there's billions of them and things like that. I've just thought, I only watched this. I think I've watched this over lockdown, and I do like. I'd like to watch it again. I do like Return of the Living Dead. I think is very.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah,
very very funny. And I didn't realize that's the one that introduces eating brains into the zombie canon.
That's where brains comes from, isn't it? Brains.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. And it's just and it's very funny, and its relationship with Night of the Living Dead is very clever.
Yeah,
very meta, very clever, and again, it's funny. And it's really nihilistic as well, but it's funny with it. There's nothing really funny about zombie flesh eaters, not intentionally, but or unintentionally. I think it's a really good movie, beautifully made. There's a lovely bit on the Blu-ray, the Arrow Blu-ray of zombie flesh, where they talk about, because obviously they got like fading sort of American or British like matinee idols to kind of appear in it, just to give it a slight commercial boost. I think it's like Ian Culloch, the actor in it. They're interviewing him, and he goes, "Yeah, I've slagged this film off over the decades. I was embarrassed to do it, and then I went to some retrospective screening, like almost like 30 or 40 years later, and just watched it. I thought, oh my goodness, it's actually quite good." It just took him decades to actually bring himself to watch the movie again and realize that there'd been a lot of sort of artistry and skill in the composition of the images and the editing of it, and and he, he was in it, and he didn't realize it was a good film until decades later. Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Zombie. Yeah.
Zombies. Okay, good. Well done. I think we did well there. Would you like to let our listeners know what the next film's going to be next week? We're
gonna stick with. Well, this is our first subtitled movie. I forgot to say. So we're gonna carry on with that. Although there's not a lot of talking in this movie, I have to say. Lots of shooting. And we're going to stick with East Asian extreme cinema, and we can go with John Woo's heroic bloodshed, cult and commercial hit and classic Hard Boiled, the film that broke him in the West and opened him up to a decade or so of being the go-to guy for innovative action. And which one of us doesn't like it or has an issue with it? It's me again. It's me. Perennially the bad cop until the day.
No, I was going to say, I rewatched this film a couple of years ago and wasn't as enamored as I was when I saw it in the 90s. I loved it. I had a box set video of it. I was like a big John Woo fan. Loved all The Killer, Better Tomorrow. Loved all that stuff. But yeah, when I resaw it, I wasn't overly impressed. So I'll be rewatching it, and then So maybe
I might change my mind. I might watch it again and completely recount, because we haven't done that for a while, have we? We didn't do it with this one. We didn't do 2 watches because I'd watched it. Yeah, we could have. We could maybe in like a year's time we could revisit one cut of The Dead, and I could watch it again and see if I've changed my mind.
Yeah. Now
and if I haven't, it'll just be really, really short episode.
You know exactly what you're going to be getting, so
yeah. There we go. So Hard Boiled. Yeah, I'm technically punching up at it, and punching up, and Damian might join me when Hard Boiled falls to the floor, and Scorsese style, we can start stamping down on it, kicking it in the head.
Until next time, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, and do all those sort of things that you're meant to do. And please email us at punchingupmoviepodcast@gmail.com with any questions. We will definitely address those if we get any at some point. I'm sure we'll get one some point. But yeah, thank you so much, and keep listening.
Thank you. What he said.
Yeah, what we both said. I'm Damian. Peace out.
I'm Adam.
See you later.
The mission has been completed.
Groovy.